Coming up today, Korea's main opposition party is set to release the findings of its investigation into allegations the nation's spy agency illegally snooped on ordinary citizens. Falling in line with global oil prices, Korea's producer prices declined for the 12th month in a row in July. Inflation stays below 1% for the 8th consecutive month. Plus, police in Thailand are frantically searching for a man who was seen leaving a backpack inside a Bangkok shrine where a bomb exploded, killing at least 22 people. Stay tuned for these stories and more. Hello, it's noon on Wednesday, the 19th of August. You're tuned in to our midday newscast here on Arirang TV. Thank you for joining us. I'm Mark Broome. Our top story this afternoon. Korea's main opposition party is set to disclose the results of its probe into surveillance allegations surrounding the nation's spy agency. The New Politics Alliance for Democracy's so-called Citizens Information Protection Committee, headed by lawmaker Ahn Cheol-soo, will make the results public at 2 p.m. Korea time. The committee has been analysing hacking programs and requesting data from the National Intelligence Service. Allegations have been swirling for weeks that the NIS purchased spyware with the intent to spy on citizens by hacking into a popular messaging app. The ruling Saenuri party has asked for the NPAD's support in bringing an end to the scandal. The ruling party says suspicions previously raised by the NPAD committee have since been proven untrue. It's suggesting new measures be devised, such as reforming the agency at the Parliamentary Intelligence Committee level. A handful of experts in the United States are urging President Park Geun-hye to think twice about attending a military parade in China early next month to celebrate the 70th anniversary of Japan's surrender in World War II. Speaking in Washington on Tuesday, Evans Revere, a former Northeast Asia specialist with the U.S. State Department, said it would be inappropriate for a South Korean president to be at a military parade that is hosted by the last country to have invaded South Korea. He was referring, of course, to China fighting alongside North Korea during the Korean War. Other policy experts had, at the same seminar, shared a similar view. They said it would be better for President Park to visit China after the parade. Seoul's presidential office is to make a decision on whether President Park will attend the September 3rd ceremony later this week. Korea's producer prices have been declining every month for exactly 1 year now. The index that measures the prices was down 4% on year in July due to low global oil prices, mainly at least. Shin Se-min reports.
Korea's producer prices have been falling for 12 straight months now and are currently languishing at their lowest point in almost 5 years. The Bank of Korea said Wednesday that its producer price index, a barometer of future consumer inflation, came in at 101.43, down 4% from the previous year. The decline in producer prices slowed in April, but has still been on the slide since then. The central bank attributed the ongoing slump to falling global oil prices that dragged down the price of petroleum goods. Utility prices moved down, with electricity, fuel, and gas prices dropping a combined 10.3%. Petroleum and coal prices posted the biggest decrease, coming in 31% lower compared to July of last year. The fall in July's index will be reflected in consumer prices within the next couple of months. Low oil prices were also the biggest factor, keeping inflation below 1% for the 8th straight month in July. Shin Se-min, Arirang News.
Domestic securities companies posted their strongest earnings in 8 years in the second quarter of this year. The Financial Supervisory Service says the combined net profit of securities firms in the country stood at 1.2 trillion won, or slightly over $1 billion in the April to June period this year. That's up 23% from the previous quarter. And the figure is the highest since the second quarter of 2007. The financial watchdog attributed the robust performance to a sharp rise in brokerage commission income. The government has vowed to make more accurate growth forecasts when setting its annual budget to prevent tax revenue shortfalls. An official at the Finance Ministry says there's growing internal consensus on setting more realistic growth rates. Korea has reported a tax revenue shortfall every year since 2012. Now, making matters worse, last year's deficit surged to a record $9.2 billion. Now, according to data, there was an average 3 to 4 percentage point difference between the government's nominal GDP prediction and actual growth over the last 3 years. Other ministry officials say the 2016 growth forecast made in June may be readjusted. The government said it expected the economy to grow 3.5%, but the Bank of Korea and a series of local think tanks forecasts range from 2.9 to 3.3%. Now, Korea's economy experienced sluggish growth in the second quarter, and while that was no big surprise, there was extra concern as Korea's growth was weaker than many other countries in the world, including those in the grip of a financial crisis. Kwon So-ah reports.
Slow growth is not an issue unique to Korea, as the world economy, be it developing or developed countries, are not in a particularly good phase. However, in comparison to other countries, the situation in Korea may be more serious. According to figures released by Bloomberg, Korea's gross domestic product expanded 0.3% in the second quarter of the year from the previous quarter. That's not only much lower than other major Asian countries like Indonesia and China, but even crisis-hit Greece is recovering, with Portugal also experiencing more growth than Korea. Among Portugal, Ireland, Italy, Greece, and Spain, or PIGS, the group of Eurozone countries that were affected economically by the 2008 financial crisis, only Italy showed weaker results.
The fact that Korea has posted weaker growth than South European countries going through financial crises means the problem is serious. Considering that piling stocks are accounting for 0.2 percentage points, the actual growth was at 0 to 0.1%.
Korea's GDP growth is now at the same level it was in the fourth quarter last year, and minus those 2 quarters, it's at its lowest in 6 years. For the time being, things are not expected to improve much, with experts saying Korea's economy will slow down alongside China. That's why financial institutions are downgrading Korea's forecast. In a report by Moody's analyzing the impact of China and Greece on the world economy, Korea's economic growth outlook was lowered for this year by 0.1 percentage point from a month ago to 2.5%. Kwon So-ah, Arirang News.
North Korea has yet again condemned the joint military exercises between South Korea and the United States. Seoul and Washington have vowed to respond strongly to any provocations out of Pyongyang. Kim Hyun-bin reports.
Despite South Korea notifying the North prior to the joint Urji Freedom Guardian exercises and stressing they are purely defensive in nature, North Korea continues to strongly condemn the drills, heightening tensions on the peninsula. The North state-run Rodong Shinmun reported Wednesday that the two Koreas are essentially in a state of war, as Seoul and Washington hold the drills, while the North state-run TV stations also slammed the South.
The war games and psychological warfare are not only threatening to the Korean peninsula and Northeast Asia's peace and security, but also the entire world.
An official from South Korea's defense ministry said on Wednesday that since Pyongyang has conducted small to mid-scale provocations before and during the drills, it's on the lookout for provocations, including missile firing by the North. Psychological warfare is being conducted on both sides of the border, with the two Koreas using loudspeakers to blast out propaganda messages. This follows Pyongyang's mine detonations on the south side of the military demarcation line that severely injured 2 South Korean cadets earlier this month. Both the U.S. State Department and the Pentagon have slammed North Korea for the explosions, calling the incident a violation of the armistice agreement. The U.S. says it's keeping a close eye on any sort of unusual movements, but warned North Korea that any further provocations will further isolate the country from the international community. Kim Hyun-bin, Arirang News.
Now, North Korea is reported to have strengthened its military drills targeting South Korea's loudspeakers on the border. An official at South Korea's defense ministry said earlier today that unusual amounts of activity have been spotted at artillery points near the demarcation line north of the border, indicating a readiness to fire across the border. Now, South Korea has reiterated that it's ready to counter any provocations from the north, as we just heard in that last report. Now, Seoul resumed its propaganda warfare after 11 years following North Korea's landmine provocation that occurred recently and injured 2 South Korean soldiers. North Korea has demanded that the South tear down its loudspeakers or risk indiscriminate attacks as a consequence. Now, those of you watching us in Korea might want to pay special attention to this next story. A routine civil air defense drill will take place nationwide at 2 p.m. this afternoon. That's in a little under 2 hours from now, to prepare for potential emergency situations. When the siren goes off, all cars are to pull over to the side of the road. So if you have somewhere you need to be, please factor this into your journey. Also, pedestrians will be asked to go into designated public facilities and multi-storey buildings for the duration of the 15-minute drill. Government and public offices will also take part in a crisis management program during the drill. 3 more civil defence drills are scheduled for this year. Police in Bangkok are hunting for a man caught on CCTV near the scene of Monday's explosion in the Thai capital. As investigators try to make sense of the blast, a second, smaller explosion hit another part of the city on Tuesday. Won Jian reports.
It was around 7 o'clock Monday evening when a massive bomb exploded near a popular Hindu shrine in central Bangkok. The blast has left 22 people dead, including 8 foreigners, and about 120 others injured, according to local police. The explosive has been identified as a pipe bomb that was wrapped in cloth. Authorities say it's too early to tell who was behind the attack, but the police are looking for a possible suspect. A man wearing a yellow t-shirt carrying a large black backpack was caught on CCTV near the scene of the attack. Video also showed the man deliberately leaving his backpack inside the shrine, then walking away from the area. Thai police have released pictures of the suspect, who is wanted for questioning. In a separate incident on Tuesday, a small explosive device was thrown from a Bangkok pier. Authorities say no one was hurt and no link has been made to Monday's attack. Won Ji-hyun, Arirang News.
Now, rain has been falling in China's northeastern port city of Tianjin, which was struck by those massive explosions last week. The wet weather is raising concerns hazardous chemicals could spread over a larger area. Authorities say some 700 tons of sodium cyanide stored at the blast site could react with the water to produce highly poisonous hydrogen cyanide gas in the air, posing a potentially deadly threat to residents in the area. Officials say they have built a dam of sand around the center, or the crater rather, of the blast site to prevent pollutant leakage, but locals are understandably concerned. As work continues to identify those killed in the blast, the death toll stands at 114. More than 700 people are receiving treatment for their injuries in hospital. Now, since Korea's liberation from Japan 70 years ago, the country has made staggering advances both economically and in terms of technology. In fact, many say it was science that set the stage for Korea's freedom and subsequent rise from the ruins of war. For a look at some of the most significant scientific breakthroughs, Park Se-young reports.
Korean-Japanese scientist Woo Jang-chun dedicated himself to agricultural research and development in Korea after its liberation from Japan in 1945. He developed top-quality seeds to improve production of many Korean staple crops like Chinese cabbage, hot peppers, and cucumbers. This was great news for a country struggling to provide enough food for its population. Insect-resistant cold-hardy pine trees and fast-growing poplar trees, which grow well even on barren soil, were both developed by leading forestry researcher Hyun Shin-gyu. The trees were integral in covering Korea's barren mountains in green after the Japanese occupation.
The development of pine and poplar trees was the stepping stone for tree breeding in Korea. I believe it was very important in the greenification of the nation's forests.
In the 1970s, Korea launched a massive government-driven campaign for heavy and chemical industrialization. Hyundai Motor began selling the nation's first mass-produced car, Pony, in 1976. The Hyundai Pony started the car boom in Korea, and it also became the first Korean car to be sold overseas. Other significant milestones for the nation's scientific development include highway construction technology and the rice variety 통일, which enabled Korea to transition from rice importer to a self-sufficient producer. Park Se-young, Arirang News.
Well, those are the stories we have for you on this Wednesday lunchtime here in Seoul. For more of the latest, don't forget to check out our website, arirang.com/news. Have a great day. Goodbye.